So Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook fame, as well as Meta, has written a letter to Jim Jordan, and really it takes ownership of Facebook's and Instagram's election meddling. Let's talk about it on Azimuth Podcast. I'm Barrett McNabb, and with me is Kimberly McNabb. So I have the letter here. A going to link it in our Twitter handle as a post so you guys can look at it. So I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'll put some of it up as a photograph, but I probably won't be able to read it. But I'm just going to paraphrase some of it. I am going to read two specific paragraphs just because I want to make sure that that gets fully conveyed. But ultimately, he is accepting responsibility for Facebook and for Instagram to downplay and listen to the Harris-Biden administration's requests to eliminate any misinformation or disinformation supposed concerning COVID-19. Now, what that included was humor, anything that was humorous, anything that was satire, anything that was a meme. All of that was pushed down and labeled as misinformation, disinformation, and pushed down in the algorithm. So this is from Mark's own hand. So in 2021, senior officials from the Biden administration, including the White House, repeatedly pressured our teams for months to censor certain COVID-19 content, including humor and satire, and expressed a lot of frustration with our teams if we didn't agree. Ultimately, it was our decision whether or not to take the content down, and we own our decisions, including the COVID-19 related changes we made to our enforcement in wake of this pressure. I believe the government pressure was wrong, and I regret that we were not more outspoken about it. Now, he goes on to say, including the Hunter Biden laptop controversy, in which 50 some odd intelligence operatives, including Leon Panetta, former director of the CIA, Brennan, former director of the CIA, James Clapper, DNI, all signed saying that this was clearly a Russian misinformation campaign, and it turned out all of those intelligence analysts were lying. They lied and published this letter. It was not a Russian misinformation, but at the request of these people, Facebook also censored and pushed down this information as well. And then we're going to go on to the last paragraph, and it talks about what commonly is called Zuckerbucks, and I'll get into that. So he goes to say, apart from content moderation, I want to address the contributions I made during the last presidential cycle to support electoral infrastructure. The idea here was to make sure local election jurisdictions across the country had the resources they needed to help people vote safely during the global pandemic. I made these contributions through the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. They were designed to be nonpartisan, spread across urban, rural, and suburban communities. And it goes to say, I know some people believe this work benefited one party over the other, and my goal was to be neutral and not play a role one way or the other, or even to appear playing a role. So I don't plan on making a similar contribution this cycle. So what was commonly referred to as Zuckerbucks, he had his nonprofit that were giving money, and the appearance was, or at least some of the reporting that I've seen, is that it was primarily going to Democrat and liberal campaigns at the expense of conservative and Republican campaigns. Now, he says he didn't mean for that to happen. He wanted to be neutral, but the dollars were not allocated that way as far as the reporting that I have seen. So he's pledged to just get out of it altogether, which I think is a smart move.
Okay, well, I didn't want to interrupt you on that. First of all, you censor anything that could be satire or humor during 2020 when we were locked up with, a 2 and a 4-year-old? Right. How dare you! How dare you! I needed every bit of humor I could get!
And wine and beer.
Oh, yes. And then, okay, demoted content related to a Hunter Biden laptop reported by the New York Post after pressure by the FBI and warning of potential Russian disinformation. Now, anytime someone says Russia, 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 guess what? I tune out. Russia got Trump elected in 2016. They interfered with the campaign. Oh, COVID stuff is Russia disinformation. Even we were talking about the transgender people, whatever you want to call them, the men pretending to be women,
Right.
in the Olympic boxing.
Right.
Even you said something about Russia. And I just tuned out. I was like, bleh. And guess what? I think I'm pretty symbolic of most of America now. Like, we just hear Russia, but okay, whatever.
I mean, it's the little boy that cried wolf, right?
Exactly.
You get desensitized to it.
And then the next pandemic comes around. Guess what? We're not believing you again. We don't believe you. And, I'm sorry, doesn't plan to contribute to any other electoral infrastructure. I believe it when I see it, because you caved, you folded the last time. Guess what? Be like Rumble when they wanted Russell Brand shut down on that platform, and they said, go stick it where the sun doesn't shine.
Right. I mean, let's talk about freedom of speech.
Cave once, you're gonna cave again. And what other platforms are gonna cave?
Well, I mean, so let's talk about the freedom of speech in these tech companies. That's the reason why Elon Musk purchased Twitter, was to get rid of all of that government interference and pushing down, information. Who gets to cherry pick and say misinformation is misinformation or disinformation?
Well, I mean, it's just a subjective term. It's code for stuff you don't like.
Right.
You're throwing your teddy bear out of the crib. I mean,
yeah.
But you're in the position of power, so we have to play that game, unfortunately, until you go to bed.
Well, I mean, that's one of the things where the founder and CEO of Telegram, the name escapes me right now.
Durov or something?
Yes, yes. He is a Russian national. He doesn't live in Russia anymore, because I think he's based out of Dubai. At least Telegraph is, or Telegram is. It's based out of Dubai. So it is a end-to-end encrypted messaging system, and he landed in France and was promptly arrested because the French government didn't like the fact that, according to them, that he doesn't have enough content moderation on his platform. And really, if something is to be a public square or a town square, then of course there doesn't need to be moderation if it's free speech. But just to be clear, just because a European Union or a nation that's a democracy
claims to be a democracy,
just because they claim to be a democracy does not mean that they have freedoms that we do in the United States. Freedom of speech is different in France than it is in the United States. Freedom of speech is different than in England than it is in the United States.
Well, it's almost non-existent in England now.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, so, these European democracies, of which most of our laws and traditions and everything come from the European continent. But for example, in France, you're guilty until you're proven innocent. Right? I mean, that's their legal system. I'm not saying it's right or wrong.
But America's the racist country.
Yeah, but America's the racist. But at least in the United States, you're innocent until proven guilty, right? So the presumption is that you're innocent, and it's important legal differentiation between the two countries. So just because countries are a democracy doesn't mean that they operate the same. And with this technology, you have Telegram, you've got Snapchat, you've got Instagram and Twitter, X. All of these companies are vying for advertising dollars. That's how they operate. But there are all these platforms for freedom of speech, and when the government comes in and curtails it, that's a problem.
Yeah. Well, a lot of conservative commentators refer to YouTube as ScrewTube, and we have asked some friends and family about ways we can improve our podcast and get more subscribers. And one of them even commented, "It sounds like you guys are being a little bit blackballed."
Yeah. There's
so definitely let us know what you think in the comments.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, do you want more of this content? Because we're not scared of Google and YouTube. I mean, we'll keep making this content. So let us know in the comments if you want to see more of this content where we're just telling the truth. Hit that like and subscribe button and share and get the word out, because we feel as though us being truthful and being our honest selves and bringing you the information and the opinion as we see it.
Yeah, because we're not sponsored. We're speaking on our own behalf, no one else's behalf.
Yeah, exactly. And so with this election season coming up, things like this, freedom of speech and various freedoms, it's important. And it just, it's interesting. I find it very ironic that the Democrat Party lauds the free speech and says that the Republicans are going to tamp down on free speech when it is the exact opposite. It's literally the exact opposite. It's the Democrats that want to crack down on free speech. The same thing, with Kamala Harris not having an interview. I mean, they're in the last segment we talked about how she is getting a free pass.
They're censoring the speech we get to hear.
Yeah, exactly. She's getting a free pass. So I actually, when I read this open letter, I think Mark Zuckerberg is sincere. I think he is sincere. I know we disagree on that, but he didn't have to write this letter and say, we did get pressure from the Harris-Biden administration, and we regret not standing up to the government. I mean,
well, I just love how people honest. Get away with stuff 4 years later. I mean, what are you going to do about it 4 years later?
Yeah, the damage was done. I mean, the damage was done.
You got what you wanted. Now you get to say, oops, sorry.
Right.
But, I don't know if I should take this as a positive or a dire warning. Like, okay, well, we don't really need Mark Zuckerberg anymore because we have other ways
right.
to lie, cheat, and steal.
Well, I mean, we saw this letter, and again, we'll post it on our X account, and I'll copy and paste the words and put them in the description. I don't think you can put pictures in the description, but I'll figure out how to get this out so you can see it word for word. But this stuff is important, and as technology moves faster and faster, the ability for AI, to censor things. Oh, so here's a perfect example. So I signed up for Grammarly, and I did their free account and I did their paid account, and I wanted help writing a script that we were going to use, and I couldn't do it. Grammarly, so I started typing, this is what I want to have happen, and it was a pro-Republican script that I was writing, and Grammarly immediately came in and said, I cannot help you with this.
Same for ChatGPT.
Yeah, I cannot help you with this because this is conservative politics, and I'm not authorized to do that. And I was.
But if you spin it the other way, happy.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, well, I only wanted you, Grammarly, to help me with this thing, and the one thing that I wanted you to help me with, you can't. I would say that is deleting freedom of speech from allowing me to have AI assistance in writing a conservative dialogue.
Well, same thing with Google. If you try to find some statistics that will back up something is out there, but you can't find it. Either it doesn't find it, messes up the wording, or if you try to Google a search story, it's going to be CNN first, and you might get Fox on the third page.
Right. But this affects you. And so that's why we want you to keep tuning in to Azimuth Podcast and contributing to the dialogue that we're all having. So thank you so much for tuning in, and please stay tuned after these messages.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy our show with all the stories we share, we would love your support.
And it's as easy as clicking that subscribe or follow button. This will ensure you never miss an episode and keeps us bringing you these important stories. Your support makes a huge difference. Thank you so much for being part of our podcast family.
Thanks, and keep tuning in.